Welcome back to Dagryffyn Hobby. My name's Dave. It's time for another layout update. I can't say that I have a lot of work to show you, but the gears are turning and I've got some ideas. Now, in true Dave fashion, I looked at the layout and I said, this track plan is pretty good and there really aren't any changes I want to make. And then proceeded to spend a couple hours trying to reroute two of the tracks. After spending a good amount of time trying to reroute the outer loop on the bottom and the upper loop to reach further into the back corner of the room, I decided it wasn't worthwhile to do so because it really wouldn't give me much more operational ability. Maybe it would be a little bit longer of a loop, but not enough to notice. And it's also in a spot I can't see from the rest of the room. So there really wasn't much of a reason to do those changes, besides the fact that moving the upper loop would have made it more difficult for me to reach other portions of the layout. And I knew if I did that, it would really aggravate me later on. So while I'm not moving either of those loops, it did get me thinking about that corner. And one of the things I haven't liked about the corner is that it feels too isolated and like it's not part of the layout. So let's go back there, take a look, and talk about some of the ideas I have for that spot. I had to do some more carving in this spot because I realized I hadn't run a train on the lower outer loop since I did the work over here on this side. And I couldn't figure out why the train was slowing down back here until I realized that it was dragging along the foam and that the foam had stuck out too far. So I had to carve a bunch of that down in order to get clearance for the trains to get through. I took all the buildings off the layout except for the station, and I also removed the, well, kind of mountain peak from that corner. Wasn't liking the way it looked, and I wanted a blank slate to look at for a while. I also cleared off the whole center section of the layout. I placed some temporary mountain and trees and whatnot up there just to get, well, a visualization of what it might look like built up and if I would have room to build another loop. Also to consider whether or not I wanted to make tunnels on that upper level. I think if I were to put a tunnel up here on this upper level, it would just be this small section right here so that I could reach it from either side. Still clean the track and do any train retrieval as needed. And that corner back there is the one I've been working on. We're going to go back to that corner and take a closer look. Before we get back to the corner, I realized a dummy switch with a spur going through a tunnel would be pretty neat and a cool little visual trick to make the layout seem a little bit bigger. The ideas I was playing with was having this upper loop go straight back from this point to the table back there and then turn, but that would end up blocking my access to this whole area back here. And access is one of the reasons I have like this notch in the table and that the dimensions are the way they are so that I could reach everything. I mean, as it is, this corner back here is a little tough to get to, but I can still get to it. So to make it harder to get to just doesn't seem to make sense to me. You may be familiar with this spot back here. I've considered putting just a small loop with a mine train, or more grandiose thinking was a helix to go down below the layout and then come up on the other side. I just don't think that's something I feel like doing. It just sounds like it'd be more trouble than it'd be worth, and probably just frustrate me more than anything. So I may put a loop here. It kind of depends how this spot back here develops. This is the other side of the tunnel. I kind of just hacked it right through the foam that was there, and you might be able to see it didn't come out too uniform, and I had to patch up this left side here. But that's okay. I can always start over and do it again if I need to. But putting that tunnel there, which is something I'd thought about for quite some time, got me thinking about this whole section and how it sitting there completely isolates this section of the layout. Granted, it's only 3 by 4 feet, but it's part of the layout, and in order for it to make sense, I feel like it shouldn't be blocked. As I've been looking around the front of the layout, looking for places I could do trestles and different types of bridges, I realized this might be a perfect location for one. If I did a long bridge, a curved trestle, something like that, I could take this whole chunk of foam mountain out and then bring the layout back this way. And that's not to move the main loops, but I think it would be pretty neat to be in the middle of the room and look back this way and see how deep it was. The whole layout really is intended for viewing from the middle of the room. So this back area isn't as important to me, but it still should be interesting. With that piece of foam removed, it really not only opens up this whole side, but it makes the layout seem bigger, and it gives me more place to do some interesting scenic work instead of just having these 2 loops essentially go through a trench most of the way around the layout. So I haven't figured out exactly, or even close, how I want to route this track or support it. The track itself will probably stay in the same location, but I'm going to have to build some sort of bridge or trestle to hold the track in the meantime. The more I think about it, the more I want to remove this section, because that will really give me so many more options as far as what to do back here. I could really get, a fake yard back here and some buildings, train sheds, instead of putting a little loop back here. I mean, none of it would really be functional, but visually I think it would be a lot of fun. I could put some sort of crazy industry back here. I don't know. See, initially, this back corner was going to just be mountain that went up, which is why that little N-scale house is up there. But, it might not. I might just keep it a little flatter. I hadn't thought of putting a yard or industry back here until just now. Now I have to go think about that and move some stuff around and see how the idea matures. If you ignore the fact that there are no switches and that this geometry is a little off, this is kind of just a quick sketch of what I could do. I could put a few tracks back here and maybe like an industry siding here. I don't know. This is going to take some playing around and considering whether or not I am willing to forego the huge mountain up here. Also, if that means that this mountain is not going to be here, that might mean I have to stay with just 3 loops and I won't have any place to get a 4th loop in. So that's something else to consider too.
I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Dagryffyn Hobby.